Daniel Rook stepped off the shuttle onto the sprawling alien market with a sense of cautious wonder. The station was a massive ring of lights, smells, and sounds, each corner teeming with species from hundreds of star systems. Daniel had traveled far for this, a place where rare AI cores, energy modules, and exotic goods changed hands daily. Traders shouted their offers, bidders called across stalls, and the scent of ionized metal mixed strangely with sweet alien spices. It was overwhelming, but Daniel had learned to navigate chaos. Humanity, he thought, always adapted quickly. He moved slowly through the crowd, observing the assortment of beings. There were tall, crystalline entities who seemed to shimmer in the light, short, stocky creatures with 4 arms that deftly lifted goods, and winged species that hovered gracefully over the masses. Daniel noted that while humans were rare, the few present immediately drew attention. His own reputation as a careful, honest trader sometimes preceded him. That reputation, he thought, might keep him alive here. Daniel's mission was simple: acquire replacement AI cores for his small freighter's maintenance systems. He was not here for drama, for intrigue, or for the strange items that littered many stalls. Yet, as he wandered, one particular auction drew his attention. The auctioneer was a tall, slender alien with multi-jointed limbs and a voice that could carry across the entire hall. "One of the finest specimens perfect for companionship," the auctioneer called. Daniel paused, curious. The words made him frown. "Companionship," he muttered to himself. He moved closer. On a raised platform stood a being that immediately caught his eye. She was humanoid in shape, with smooth blue skin and eyes that seemed larger than usual but bright and intelligent. Around her were small holographic symbols that he did not understand. The auctioneer continued. "A rare love slave, guaranteed loyalty and emotional fulfillment. Highest bidder takes possession immediately." He had heard strange things in alien markets before, but this term unsettled him. "Love slave," he whispered. To any human it implied ownership, control, perhaps even exploitation. Yet something about her expression gave him pause. The being did not look frightened or sad. Instead, she looked hopeful. Daniel's curiosity grew. He pushed through the crowd and positioned himself close enough to hear her voice, though the auctioneer still dominated the noise. "I am Lurie," she said softly. "This is not what you think. I wish to be bonded, not enslaved. This term is a translation error." She seemed sincere. In this market, trust was rare. He asked quietly, "Bonded? What does that mean?" Humanity had often been underestimated by alien species. Other humans might have walked away, unsettled by the language or the implications. But Daniel understood choice. Humanity had thrived in the galaxy because humans valued consent, because they recognized the strength and respect. That understanding, he realized, could save her from a situation that others might twist. The auctioneer, noticing Daniel's interest, raised his voice. "Do I have a bidder? 1,000,000 credits." He was not wealthy, but he had enough. He could make an offer, ensure her safety, and then figure out what to do next. His mind worked quickly, as humans often did in crises. If he acted now, he could protect her from the more predatory bidders who cared only for control. "I'll bid," he said. The auctioneer's antennae twitched. "Very well, human, your bid." Not the highest he could offer, but enough to secure her. The auctioneer barked orders, and the bid was accepted. "Sold!" he shouted. The crowd murmured. Some aliens looked confused. Humans were not known for generosity in such contexts. Daniel stepped forward, keeping his hand visible, non-threatening. Lurie smiled at him. Her joy was immediate and unmistakable. "Thank you," she said. "You have no idea how important this is." "That is enough." Daniel asked, "So this bond, it's not like slavery at all." Yet here he stood, witnessing the very essence of human ethics shine in the galaxy, protecting the vulnerable without expecting power in return. It was simple but rare. Lurie's happiness felt like a reflection of that human principle. He guided her toward the quieter docking area of the station, away from the more chaotic traders. "What will happen now?" he asked. "Now," she said, "we learn about each other. We explore the galaxy together. I wish to see how humans live, how they work, how they think. Your culture fascinates me as much as mine might scare yours. Then I suppose we have a lot to teach each other." The galaxy had weapons, technology, and strange powers, but the human way of honoring choice was a quiet strength that could not be measured by credits or firepower. Lurie, noticing his contemplative silence, asked, "Do you ever regret your choices?" "But I don't regret protecting someone who cannot protect themselves, not when it's the right thing to do." Humanity often learns by acting, by making difficult choices and standing by them. Daniel set it to leave the station, and the stars stretched out before them. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of dangers, yet Daniel felt a strange sense of calm. With Lurie beside him, he realized that humans did not need to dominate or conquer to have an impact. Sometimes the quiet strength of respect, care, and choice could reshape entire worlds. As the shuttle glided into hyperspace, Daniel glanced at Lurie. She gazed out at the passing stars, her expression full of wonder. She was ecstatic, not because she had been purchased, but because she had been protected, understood, and respected. Humanity's reputation, Daniel realized, could be built on actions like this. One small act of honor, one refusal to exploit, could ripple across the galaxy in ways no weapon could. And in that moment, Daniel knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had many lessons to teach, and humans had many more to show. For the first time in the alien market, amid chaos and noise, Daniel felt something rare: quiet hope. Humanity, he thought, had a way of shining in even the darkest places. The shuttle hummed softly as it drifted through hyperspace. Daniel sat in the pilot's chair, his hands resting lightly on the controls, but his mind was far from navigation charts. Beside him, Lurie sat with her hands folded in her lap, staring out the viewport at streaks of starlight. The bond contract that had brought them together now hummed quietly in the background, a symbol of trust, not ownership. "Do all humans act like you?" Lurie asked, breaking the silence. Daniel chuckled softly. "I hope not," he said. "Otherwise we'd be boring, but most humans, if they understand right and wrong, try to help others when they can. Some fail, of course, but enough succeed to make a difference. Even small acts of respect, like refusing to harm someone, matter more than you might think. I just don't like seeing injustice when it can be fixed." He glanced at her and added, "It's simple, really. If you can help someone without hurting yourself, why wouldn't you? Not because I was bought, but because I am safe, and because you understand." The shuttle shook lightly as it exited hyperspace and entered the orbit of a small, green planet. Daniel had chosen it as a temporary stop, peaceful, with low traffic, and ideal for introducing Lurie to human ways of life. As they descended, he explained, "This is one of the few places I know that doesn't have a heavy market presence. You can rest, learn, and explore without being watched too closely." The green of the planet's surface was warm and welcoming, with soft grass-like plants and trees that swayed even though there was no wind. "This will be your first taste of how humans live. I can understand why humans might value places like this." Lurie was fascinated by human inventions, from basic tools to the shuttle Daniel had piloted. She was not judgmental. Her species valued knowledge, and she absorbed everything eagerly. One evening, while they sat outside the small cabin watching the stars, Lurie asked, "Do humans always help others this way? Even strangers?" Small acts can ripple far beyond what you see. Protecting you might seem minor, but it sends a message. Even aliens notice. That is powerful, even without weapons. It wasn't a heroic act, it was just human. Some sought advice, others questioned their own behavior, and a few even began reconsidering how bonded relationships were enforced in their cultures. Daniel did not seek recognition, but he recognized that humanity's principles were spreading quietly. One morning, Lurie asked to explore the nearby forest. Daniel agreed, though he kept a watchful eye. She moved gracefully, her curiosity evident in every gesture. She examined plants, listened to the sounds of alien birds, and occasionally laughed in delight. "Your world is full of life," she said. "I want to understand humans and their environment more fully. Even when we colonize or travel, we try to balance our needs with respect for others. Otherwise, nothing changes. I just did what I thought was right. I need to see who is coming." He knew this could become political quickly. "They want to talk," he said to Lurie, "but don't worry, just stay calm and follow my lead. I assume you have questions about the bond. Respecting choice, protecting the vulnerable, that is the strength I value. I chose this bond because I trust this human. He does not control me, he protects me. He acts with honor. That is the meaning of our bond. You may observe, but you will see that this bond is different." For the first time, humans' reputation for ethics, honesty, and empathy was directly influencing alien systems. As the meeting concluded, Daniel reflected on the unusual week. He had entered the market seeking simple AI cores, Yet he had emerged with a new companion, a bond of trust, and an unintended impact on galactic ethics. Luri's happiness was genuine, her excitement contagious. She was not owned or controlled, but celebrated. Humanity's way, simple, ethical, and courageous, had quietly begun to ripple outward. That night, as Daniel and Luri sat under the alien stars once more, she spoke softly. "I have traveled across galaxies, but I have never felt so valued, so respected. It's not always recognized, but it works." Through ethics, courage, and empathy, they could reshape how the galaxy understood strength and responsibility. And with Luri beside him, he knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge and inspire far more than he could imagine. Word of Daniel's unusual bond with Luri spread quietly at first. Traders and travelers whispered in the corridors of distant stations, fascinated by a human who had purchased a love slave without exploiting her. Some could not understand it, others found it inspiring. Daniel and Luri traveled from one quiet planet to another, exploring systems where trade was minimal and interaction with other species limited. Each time they encountered curious eyes and subtle attention. Daniel did not seek fame, but humanity's reputation seemed to move ahead of him. They arrived at Valira, a planet known for its busy shipping lanes and sprawling markets. Unlike the small, peaceful green world where they had rested, Valira was a hub of activity, with hundreds of species negotiating deals, exchanging rare resources, and observing the rules, or bending them when convenient. Daniel navigated the shuttle carefully, avoiding the chaotic main ports and landing in a smaller docking area on the planet's outskirts. "This place is much busier than the last one," Luri observed, looking out at the glowing towers and hovering craft. "Humans manage to survive in crowded systems like this. But we do it." She walked beside him proudly, showing that the bond they shared was built on mutual respect, not dominance. As they moved, a small group of beings approached. They were from the Trade Authority, the organization overseeing bonded agreements in many star systems. Their leader, a tall alien with angular features and bronze-colored eyes, spoke first. "Human Daniel Rook, we have been observing your actions. Your treatment of Luri is unusual. Other species rarely honor bonded agreements in this way. Your behavior is disrupting expected patterns. Many bonded individuals now look to humans as examples. They wonder if humans will be better than the species who hold their contracts. He does not control me, he protects me. I am safe with him. I speak for many who feel trapped by contracts. Humanity shows us a different way. If others choose to follow, it is their choice. If they do not, that is their responsibility." They began to question their own situations quietly, wondering if the principles Daniel demonstrated could apply to them. Later, as they walked through a market filled with stalls selling rare gems, alien tech, and exotic foods, Daniel explained to Luri why his species had evolved in such a way. "Humanity survived because we learned to care about each other. Strength alone is not enough. Intelligence alone is not enough. Survival requires cooperation, respect, and courage. Those who act selfishly often fail in the long run. But when it matters, humans can act with clarity, honor, and resilience. That is why I intervened for you. That is why I continue to act with respect." Daniel noticed a smaller bonded being pushed toward the stage, clearly nervous. Without hesitation, he stepped forward. "Wait," he said firmly. His calm authority drew attention. The aggressive bidder froze. "This individual deserves respect. She has rights. No contract should override her choice." But Daniel's words had weight. Luri's presence made it clear. Humans did not exploit. They observed, they acted ethically, and they protected the vulnerable. The aggressor grumbled but withdrew, muttering about human arrogance. Luri looked at Daniel, her expression a mix of pride and gratitude. "You do not need laws or threats to make others respect us," she said. "Your presence and principles are enough." Daniel and Luri moved through the city with ease. Wherever they went, the ripple of their example spread quietly. It was subtle, but Daniel knew it mattered. One evening, while resting in a modest lodging, Daniel reviewed reports from distant systems. Requests for advice on bonded agreements had arrived from several star systems. Some species wanted to understand how humans treated bonded partners ethically. Others questioned their own systems, wondering if exploitation was necessary or simply a tradition long assumed to be right. Luri watched him thoughtfully. "Your people, you are changing minds without fighting. That is extraordinary. We do not always intend to influence, but living rightly often creates change. Small acts of integrity can ripple farther than violence ever could. That is more important than most victories. Through careful conversation, they helped her understand that her choice mattered and that she could seek protection without compromising her freedom. By evening, the young alien's fear had turned into cautious hope. She thanked Daniel and Lurie before departing, her steps lighter than when she arrived. Daniel realized that humanity's ability to combine courage, empathy, and clarity had a profound effect. One person's example could empower many others, inspiring confidence and change without coercion. Over the following weeks, Daniel and Lurie continued their travels. Each stop brought new opportunities: to help someone trapped by unfair contracts, to teach the value of mutual respect, or to simply demonstrate that humans could act differently from other species. Everywhere they went, whispers of their deeds spread. Traders and authorities began to question whether the systems they had accepted for centuries were just. Despite the attention, Daniel remained humble. He did not seek fame or accolades. He acted according to principle. Lurie remained by his side, enthusiastic, curious, and proud to be bonded with a human who upheld the values she admired. She was not dependent on him, nor did she fear him. Their bond was one of mutual trust, exploration, and respect, a partnership that reflected the best of both species. One evening, while observing the sunset on a distant planet, Lurie turned to Daniel. "Do you realize what you have done? By simply being honorable, by refusing to exploit, you are changing the galaxy's understanding of humans. Even bonded authorities see it now. Many aliens now hope humans will lead by example. To be bonded to someone who embodies principles, courage, and care, it is more important than anything else I have experienced. Your perspective, your courage, your trust, it strengthens me as much as I hope my actions strengthen you." Yet through understanding, courage, and respect, they had become partners, not only in travel but in demonstrating a human way to the galaxy. They knew the challenges ahead would be greater. Some species might resist change, some traders might resent disruption, and some authorities might grow wary of humans' influence. But Daniel was confident. Humanity thrived not through fear or domination, but through principles, courage, and the quiet power of right action. With Lurie at his side, he felt ready to face whatever the galaxy would throw at them next. The bond they shared was no longer simply a contract. It had become a living example of what humans could offer: ethics, intelligence, empathy, and courage. And as they gazed at the stars, Daniel understood something vital. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and opportunity, but humans had the capacity to shape it, not with weapons, but with honor. The news of Daniel Rook's actions had spread faster than he could have imagined. It began as quiet whispers among traders in distant stations and slowly reached the ears of officials in far-flung systems. Humans were known for their adaptability, intelligence, and stubbornness, but now stories circulated about a human who had purchased a bonded alien without exploiting her, instead honoring her freedom and choice. Some aliens were curious, some confused, and some deeply unsettled. To them, human behavior was unpredictable and in many ways threatening, not because humans were violent, but because humans acted with principle. Daniel and Lurie traveled to a planet called Corrales, a bustling hub on the edge of a heavily traveled trade route. The planet was known for its energy markets and vibrant cityscapes that stretched high into the clouds. Daniel chose a quieter landing pad on the outskirts of the main city to avoid unnecessary attention, though he knew it was impossible to remain unnoticed forever. Lurie's presence alone drew gazes, her blue skin and luminous eyes unfamiliar but captivating to the local species. "This city is different," Lurie said as they stepped out of the shuttle. "It is loud, crowded, and chaotic, yet there is an order underneath. Humans seem to navigate chaos better than others. That ability, combined with our principles, is what has helped humanity survive across worlds." In her own culture, many bonded beings were kept under strict control, their choices limited by fear or obligation. Her relaxed posture alongside Daniel sent a clear message. This human did not seek dominance, only partnership and respect. Soon, they noticed a small crowd gathered around an auction platform. Daniel recognized the situation immediately. A young bonded alien, her species unfamiliar to him, was being offered to the highest bidder. The alien looked nervous, her movements restrained as she tried to understand the proceedings. The crowd whispered and speculated, expecting aggression from the bidders. Daniel walked closer. "We need to be careful," he said quietly to Lurie. "This could get complicated quickly." "I trust your judgment," Humans were unpredictable in these matters, and Daniel's calm authority made it clear he would not back down. Lurie moved beside him, her posture confident. "I support him," she said firmly. "Respect and choice are more important than profit or tradition. You may observe, but you will see that this bond is different from others." One stepped forward, his voice harsh and questioning. "And what makes a human think they can intervene in our systems? This is how business has worked for centuries. Humanity survives not by taking advantage of others, but by understanding responsibility, ethics, and fairness. You may continue with your transactions, but I will not stand by while a being is coerced." She realized again why she had chosen to bond with a human, not because of strength, not because of power, but because of integrity. After a few tense moments, the auctioneer, a tall, crystalline being, raised his hands. "Enough! Let the human act. The crowd has seen this. The auction will proceed only if the bidder and the bonded being agree." She had never experienced a protector acting solely in her interest. She nodded, understanding that she had a choice. The auction was suspended, and whispers of human influence spread quickly through the market. Later, Daniel and Lurie moved to a quieter district of Corrales, away from the crowded streets. They found lodging in a modest building overlooking the city lights. Daniel spent time reviewing reports that had begun arriving from other systems. Traders, bonded authorities, and even distant governments were curious about the human who had honored the bond instead of exploiting it. Lurie observed quietly, impressed by the way humans could create influence through principle rather than force. "Your people," she said one evening as they watched the lights flicker below, "you are changing minds without even trying. Others are questioning their own systems, wondering if they can act as ethically as you do. One choice can inspire thousands, even millions, without a single battle fought." Daniel welcomed them calmly, explaining that his actions were guided by principle. Lurie spoke as well, reinforcing the importance of consent, choice, and mutual respect in bonded relationships. By the end of the meeting, the officials were cautiously impressed. Some began re-examining their own policies, while others remained wary of the unpredictable influence humans could have. As they continued their travels, Daniel and Lurie encountered more bonded individuals who had been mistreated or trapped in coercive agreements. Each time, they offered guidance, support, and a model for a different way of life. Daniel did not claim to have all the answers, but his actions and ethical reasoning empowered those who had previously felt powerless. Lurie's presence added credibility. She embodied the trust and autonomy that had been denied to so many others. One day, while exploring a serene park near the city center, Daniel noticed a group of young aliens observing them from a distance. They were cautious, whispering among themselves, but their curiosity was evident. Lurie noticed them too and smiled gently. "They are learning," she said. "They see humans acting with principle, and it inspires them." Daniel answered patiently, explaining that humans valued freedom, choice, and responsibility above all. Lurie translated where needed, providing examples from her own experience and reinforcing the lessons of trust and respect. By the end of the week, the small group had gained a new perspective. They were no longer passive observers, but curious learners, eager to apply the principles they had witnessed in their own lives. Daniel and Lurie continued to emphasize that true strength lay not in domination, but in protecting the vulnerable, acting ethically, and choosing right over easy. Their reputation continued to grow quietly but steadily. Across systems, aliens spoke of the human who acted without greed or malice, the bond that was based on trust, and the influence that spread simply by living with integrity. Daniel did not seek recognition, but he recognized the significance of their actions. Humanity's ability to survive and inspire was rooted not in weaponry or technology alone, but in ethics, courage, and intelligence. One evening, as Daniel and Lurie watched the twin moons rise above Corrales, Lurie spoke softly. "Do you realize what you have done? Your actions are reshaping how bonded agreements are understood across the galaxy. Even distant authorities are questioning the traditions they once accepted without thought." But yes, it seems one small act can ripple far beyond what we see. By acting with honor and protecting those who could not protect themselves, humans could inspire change and reshape cultures, quietly but effectively. Lurie's trust reinforced his belief in the strength of principle, showing him that influence could be exercised without force, without fear, and without coercion. As night fell over Corrales, the city lights flickered like distant stars, echoing the vastness of the galaxy and the many lives that could be touched by simple acts of integrity. Daniel and Lurie knew challenges lay ahead. Some species would resist, some traders would resent the disruption, and some authorities would question the unpredictability of humans. But they were ready. Together, they represented the best of human ethics: courage, empathy, and clarity. The bond they shared was no longer a mere contract. It had become a living example, proof that humans could survive and thrive across the galaxy not through power or domination, but through principle, respect, and trust. And as they gazed at the twin moons, Daniel understood something vital. The galaxy was vast, full of opportunity and challenge, but humanity had a way of shining brightly, even in the most unexpected places. The galaxy was changing. What had started as a simple act, Daniel Rook protecting and respecting Lurie instead of exploiting her, had grown into a quiet revolution. Across systems, bonded beings were speaking up, questioning contracts that had long been accepted as law. Traders, authorities, and even governments were beginning to see that humans could influence more than markets. They could influence morals. Daniel and Lurie traveled to the heart of this unfolding change, a neutral system called Talvin, known for hosting interstellar councils where disputes and laws were discussed. The council chamber was enormous, a cathedral of light and metal, with representatives from dozens of species seated in a semicircle. Daniel and Lurie were led to the center, where the lead delegate, a silver-scaled alien with piercing eyes, greeted them formally. Human Daniel Rook, bonded alien Lurie, your actions have created significant discussion across the systems. Many question whether the laws we have enforced for centuries truly serve the beings they govern. I do not seek to overthrow laws, he said. I seek only to act rightly. Exploitation is wrong even if it is legal. Respect and choice are more important than any rule that ignores them. Others who are bonded may also deserve respect, choice, and safety. That is the principle we present today. Others have exploited bonds for centuries, yet you suggest that respect and freedom are more important. Are you saying all contracts are invalid? Choice, respect, and trust are universal principles that should guide all agreements. Another delegate, a crystalline alien with multiple glowing eyes, spoke cautiously. And what about the economic impact? Many species rely on bonded labor for stability. Your actions, while admirable, may disrupt entire systems. They only appear stable because no one has challenged them. Humanity survives by correcting wrongs, even when inconvenient. That is the strength we offer, stability through justice, not through fear or coercion. Daniel answered questions honestly, Lurie explained her experience, and slowly the delegates began to see that ethical action could create a stronger foundation for their societies. Bonds could exist, but only when both parties agreed, respected, and understood each other. The ripple effect of Daniel's quiet courage was now visible in policies, debates, and emerging laws. After the council session ended, Daniel and Lurie stepped outside to the open terrace overlooking Talvin's twin suns. The light reflected off the city's spires, casting long shadows that shimmered like water. Lurie's expression was thoughtful, filled with pride. "You have done more than protect me," she said softly. "You have changed how entire systems view humans, bonds, and ethics." Lurie examined the plants carefully, noting their structure and life cycles. "Your people think deeply about ethics and nature," she said. "You survive not by force, but by understanding and respect. Intelligence is important, courage is important, but ethics, honor, and integrity are what make humans endure and inspire." Bonded beings were given choices, protections were enacted, and even predators who once exploited others were forced to adapt or lose credibility. Humanity's example, simple, principled, and ethical, was changing cultures quietly but irreversibly. One day, while visiting a system with previously strict bonded labor laws, Daniel and Lurie were approached by a young bonded alien, trembling slightly as she introduced herself. I heard about you," she said. "I was trapped in a contract, forced to obey, but you and your human friend gave me hope. You showed me I have a voice. Always, and you always have choices. Your rights matter. I will act with care and courage, like humans taught me." Their travels eventually brought them back to the quiet green world where they had first spent time together. It felt familiar and safe. Daniel reflected on how far they had come. The galaxy was still vast and dangerous, still full of species who valued power above principle, but the seeds of change had been planted. Humans had demonstrated that influence was possible without aggression, and that ethics could ripple through societies faster than technology or warfare. Lurie looked up at the sky, where twin moons glimmered in the night. "I have traveled far and seen much," she said softly, "but I have never felt so valued or respected. Humans do not measure strength through fear. You measure it through courage, respect, and care. That is why I am bonded with you, not because of a contract, but because of trust." Lurie explored the forests and fields, learning more about human methods, observing nature, and recording her observations. Their bond had become a partnership of equals. She was not dependent on him. He was not dominating her. Together, they demonstrated that strength and ethics could coexist, that humanity's best qualities could ripple outward, touching countless lives. One morning, a delegation from multiple systems arrived. They had come to observe, to learn from Daniel and Lurie, and to discuss implementing similar principles in their own societies. Daniel and Lurie spoke patiently, explaining how choice, consent, and mutual respect could strengthen relationships and agreements across all species. Slowly, policies began to change. Systems once thought unbreakable adapted to the new understanding. The galaxy was not dominated by humans, but humans had quietly reshaped how others thought about strength, responsibility, and morality. Lurie looked at Daniel, her expression serene. "The galaxy is better because of you, not because you conquered it, but because you acted rightly. You show that humans can lead without weapons, without domination, just through principle. That is enough to inspire others." Lurie had been ecstatic not because she was purchased, but because she had found safety, trust, and a partner who understood her worth. The galaxy would continue to challenge them. There would always be species who valued power over principle, who tested humanity's ethics. But Daniel and Lurie were ready. Together they would face whatever came next, guided by the simple but profound truths that had carried humans across stars: courage, empathy, intelligence, and respect. And in that quiet moment, as the twin moons rose over the horizon and the stars stretched endlessly above, Daniel understood the depth of what they had accomplished. Humanity had not conquered. Humanity had inspired. And sometimes, he realized, inspiring was far more powerful than dominating. The bond between Daniel and Lurie was no longer just a contract. It was a living symbol. A symbol of what humans could offer the galaxy: clarity, courage, respect, and the quiet strength of doing what is right. And as they watched the suns set together, the galaxy felt just a little brighter, a little safer, and a little more hopeful because of it.